stacked card, so it'll be one of Danny Roman or Serrano.
And the winner of Hardy and Serrano gets Katie Taylor?
That's the plan. Both locked in to fight Katie Taylor.
Hey, Eddie, can you clarify December 7th, the drug testing for Joshua Ruiz?
Yep, same as the first contract, full VADA testing. Every fight that Anthony Joshua's had since the Gary Cornish fight, I think his 12th fight, full VADA testing, full camp, absolutely as per the contract for the fight, as per the first fight.
Eddie, Bob.
Is coming to the press
We've got 2 weeks to go till the press conference. He sent some questions, we've been answering his questions. People are trying to cause trouble. You've got Bob Arum, who is so desperate for Andy Ruiz to end up in a court case with no money and to lose his IBF belt that he's apparently the Saudi Arabia, the US government say you mustn't go there. Absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Look into the facts. Bob Arum also says it's a war zone, apparently. Absolute rubbish. We were there 3 days ago. It is spectacular. It is ready for this event. So they had some questions which we're talking. There's a press conference in 2 weeks. Both fighters will be there and the fight will take place. Saudi Arabia.
Bob said update for October 12th. Who's that?
Yes, he's fighting in Chicago, Wintrust Arena. I saw a report from Boxing Scene who've got a lot of things wrong lately, but that's another story. About Fedosov, there's been no contract sent to Fedosov. He is in the running. There's what's debatable?
That we get a lot of things wrong.
I wasn't referring to you. It wasn't your articles, but you have got quite a few things. Not you.
Is Carlos Takam
Carlos Takam is out of the fight. He's not taking a fight.
Eddie, Bob Arum said that you announcing the fight without the fighters there to allow Andy Ruiz to grab you by the balls, so to speak.
Listen, we've got a contract. We followed the exact rules of the contract. We have a rematch clause at a venue to be decided by us. All we've got to do is let them know where that venue is. Bob Arum he's on another place. He's totally lost the plot. He hates Andy Ruiz so much. All he wants to do is let Andy Ruiz waste his career, lose his belts. That's the main thing. He's got Pulev. So if he don't take this fight, Pulev gets the belt. So what Bob Arum needs to do is concentrate on his own shows. His last 2 shows, one in LA and one in Philadelphia, sold a cumulative amount of tickets of about 800. In fact, next week I'm getting him right out of trouble, selling 18,000 people for Lomachenko Campbell in London. So Bob just needs to calm down and just I know he's trying to cause trouble for Andy Ruiz, but the fight's on, taking place. There's no, he's got him by the balls. We've got a contract. All we've got to do is tell him where it is. We've done that.
So
why Saudi Arabia? Because it was a neutral venue, and all these conversations were had with Ruiz's team. Well, we said to him, we won't do it in London. Look, he really don't want to do it in London. He's got a major problem. Okay, we'll do it in a neutral venue. What would you prefer, London or Saudi Arabia? Their response, Saudi Arabia. Right? Of course the money's good. Right? I'm not going to lie to you. But there is a chance, and I keep saying to people, there is a whole nother world out there for boxing. If the Middle East become invested in the sport of boxing, I promise you, unfortunately for you guys, you will not be seeing as many mega fights in this country or in the UK, because this country and the UK cannot match the potential investment for fights in the Middle East. That's just fact.
What about some of the backlash?
We understand it, and I understand not everyone's going to be happy. And people say, oh, you're hiding behind the WWE, the World Boxing Super Series, Formula One, the European Tour, the Tennis Super Cup, the Italian Super Cup. These are all major events by organisations that are much, much bigger than MATCHROOM, much, much bigger than this fight. When George Groves boxed Callum Smith in the final of the World Boxing Super Series in Saudi Arabia, no one said one thing. Not one thing.
I think that is.
Well, it's me.
That's you, right?
Yeah, it's me. It's me, but it's more the profile of the fight, the size of the fight. And people want to criticise. Like, there was no one really pushing that fight. So if I did that fight, I would have got a load of stick. But not as much stick as Joshua.
Possibility of Amir Khan on the undercard?
No, not
Eddie, what do you feel about Andy saying that he don't feel safe going over there?
Andy Ruiz will be the safest person on the planet. We've been out there. We've got everything completely under control. The government, Skills Challenge, they want to make this, the whole world will be watching this event.
What about the idea that Joshua's doing a heel turn? I don't know if you're familiar with that term, heel turn. Like
on Lennox Lewis?
No, not on Lennox Lewis, on Andy Ruiz, just in general, like his attitude, he's normally like a happy-go-lucky guy.
Do you know what? You can't win, right? Because over the years, he's tried to be the consummate professional. And he gets criticism, people saying to him, oh, you're a bit boring, and he's got to speak up more. You let Eddie Hearn be your mouthpiece. So he gives an interview where he just gives his thoughts. Oh, Joshua, what's happened to him? He talks too much. He talks shit. Oh, so you can't really win. But I just think now, Joshua, is in a situation where the loss has kind of just brought him to the reality of the sport and the situation, which is anything can happen at any time. People will back you on the way up and kick you on the way down. So fuck everybody. Like that's what I think. It's almost like you want to criticise me. I'm going to tell you how I feel. That Lennox Lewis thing. Lennox Lewis has been having digs and criticisms at Anthony Joshua for years and years. It goes back to when he tried to sign him as a manager and Joshua turned him down. It has nothing to do with Lennox Lewis as a fighter. He's one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. But that's what Joshua, his opinion of him as a person.
Can you expand more on the security measures that will be in place for you started? Get into it?
Just like everything that's been requested by Team Ruiz has been delivered. So we know the security measures. It's not like, you know, Bob Arum talks about in this country. It's just the procedure to make sure that everybody is ultra comfortable. Team Ruiz came back with their own questions and said, we would like this in place. We said, we will deliver that, absolutely. Whether that's to have an additional, your own people. You've got to understand, this is a sort of government, royal family affair, where everything will be absolute perfection. And they will make sure, and we've seen in the build-up, we've seen with the agreements, we have everything in place to make sure this event is absolutely as safe as possible.
Eddie, December 7th, the critics have said that everything's on the line for AJ if he loses the fight. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think they're right. But I will say one thing. I mean, if you lose, you've had 24 fights or 25 fights and you've lost to one man, and you're 29 and you've been the unified world heavyweight champion. So it's not the end of the world, but of course he just wants to win the fight, you know. I mean, I watched that fight back so many times because in England you can't help, it's on every day, like people are still playing it, you know. And I look back and I just think, this is a very dangerous fight, but I know this time around he's just focused on Andy Ruiz. In that first fight, people were talking about Joshua, Wilder, Fury. He says now that I weren't up for fighting Andy Ruiz. I didn't have anything but. Or was Andy Ruiz just really good? Has he got his number? We'll find out on December 7th.
How come is that you say that he signed a contract and then Andy Ruiz says he never signed? You say it's going to be in Saudi Arabia. Andy Ruiz says he's not going.
Yeah. And then he came back and said, look, I'm sorting everything out. Right. That's being sorted out. There's a press conference in 2 weeks. Both fighters will be there. Saudi Arabia, London, New York. He's quite right to ask certain questions. His team, they wouldn't be doing a job if they weren't. All those questions have been satisfied. You'll hear from Andy Ruiz in the next day or so about the fight. And he wanted it on neutral, he didn't want to come to the UK. So you can't moan about not coming to the UK, then you get a neutral venue and moan about a neutral venue. He was given an opportunity from the gods. And he pulled off a victory from the gods, which he deserves. Be a man, honour the contract. That is what he will do. That is what his team will do. Tom Brown, Al Heyman, Louis DeCubas, all those people fully on board to deliver what they promised they'd deliver in writing, by law.
Does it go to litigation if it doesn't go to Saudi Arabia, if he doesn't accept
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but everybody knows that. I mean, that's a standard procedure. If you break a contract, then he'll lose. Once you're in a litigation process, you'll lose your belts.
If Ruiz loses, can we expect a third fight?
But yeah, I think if Andy Ruiz was to lose,
but there's no rematch.
No rematch clause. No.
Okay.
Why did you strike up this partnership with Gennady Golovkin? I mean,